In our last session we have looked at the structural design of tables, but we also prepared some little tips for you how you can even improve your tables further. So let's have a look at that. The first thing is about the grid. And unfortunately we still see a lot of tables that are displayed in the upper left corner, where a full grid is used. And as we said in our introduction, we have to think about the data ink ratio. Are all these lines telling us something about the data that is in the table? And that's actually not the case. So we should try to get rid of all the lines and keep only the lines that we really need. And that's the picture, the table in the bottom right corner. And what we see there is that we need a line to show you which three countries belong together. We need a second line to make a distinction between the header of the table and the body of the table. And we need a line to make a distinction between the body of the table and the footer of the table. And that's all we need. For the rest we can organize it with white space. So imagine that the pixels are very expensive and try to minimize them. Now if you look in your Excel interface, you can format tables, and a lot of popular formats use alternating colors in the different rows. So the first row is white, the second row is green, the third row is white, fourth green, and so further. Actually, I think that's not a really good use of fill. If you want to use fill, again, it all ties back to your message, to your goal. What do you want to communicate? If I want somebody to pay attention to a single cell in the table, then that would be a very good use case to fill the cell. And that's what I did in the first table. We made it red, so it's very clear people have to look there. But it could also be that I want that they focus on a certain salesperson in a certain region. In this case, Mr. Hansen in the United States. So I used a very light fill to highlight the row and the column, and it will guide the eyes of the reader of the table to these data. So I can use fill to influence how readers are going to read my table and to help them to understand the point I want to make. Now, some basic rules about alignment. It's not really difficult. If it's text, you align it left. If it are numbers, you align it right. And then the only trouble we have with dates. And you see it at the bottom of the screen. Actually, the alignment of the date, that's not really a problem, but the format of the date itself. And my advice would be try to get your date in a format that has the same length for every possible date. Would you use a date like the 1st of January 2014, then consider it text and do a left align. And if it's all the same length, then you can either use left, center or right. But you see the white columns in the bottom table, that are the situations you don't want to end up with. So that about alignment. Also, you have to think about the levels of precision. So in the first column, we see 3 times 2 at the bottom 3 rows. But actually, it's 2.4, 2.1, 2.0. So if that's important for my message, because that's the question, does my reader need to understand that there is a difference between these two values, then I need to at least show 1 decimal. Making it 2 decimals in this case would not be necessary, because from the 2.4, 2.1, 2.0 the reader can already see that there is a difference. Only if the precise value would be really necessary, then I could increase the number of decimals. And then we have the number format. We see now the revenue column, and it's a bit difficult to read. And that's because there are no 1000 separators. So I always would advise to include a 1000 separator. On the right side, you see something different. I didn't tell you when I introduced myself, but actually I'm a financial guy. And financial people really don't like negative values. So we try to hide that a little bit by putting a negative value between parentheses. But the trouble, what you can see now, if you look at the second number in the table and compare it to the third, is that the numbers are not aligned because of the parentheses. And that's something you need to fix. And you can do it, and what you would like to see is this, that the numbers are all aligned, but there is some space around the number to put the parentheses there. And I would really like to show you in Excel how you can do that, so that in an exercise you can try it for yourself. So here we are, we have the same data, and I'm going to select the data, and I go to the cell properties, to the number format. And here I can see the number format and the trick. So here we see the wrong numbers. We see that the alignment is not correct. And we want to change that. So if we go to the cell properties, if you go to the custom number format, then you see here the number format, and there is a semicolon in between. Left to the semicolon is the positive value. Right to the semicolon is the format of the negative value. And here we can see that negative values are within parentheses. The trick we have to do is that we have to instruct Excel to reserve a little bit of space for this parenthesis. And we can do that by entering an underscore and then the character that Excel should reserve space for it. And if we do it like this, then if it displays a positive value, it will ignore this, but it will make a little bit more space. And that's what we can see if we click on it. So now we see that you can see that next to the 8, there's little room to make sure that everything is well aligned. So that's about the number format. And with that we end the best practices for table design. And also we finished the chapter about tables. In the next session we're going to look at graphs.